Okay, so let's talk about something that sounds like it's pulled straight out of a sci-fi movie. In early 2022, surgeons in Maryland did exactly that. They took the heart from a genetically modified pig and transplanted it into a living, breathing human being. Just wild. Let's really get into what this landmark procedure is all about and, what it could mean for the future of all of us.
And you can imagine the reaction was just immediate. People were floored. It was called an extraordinary achievement, and for good reason. It really felt like we had just jumped into a whole new era of medicine. And this wasn't some overnight success either. This was the result of decades of really tough, sometimes frustrating research. But let's not forget, at the very heart of all this science was a person. A man named David Bennett. He was 57, had terminal heart disease, and he was completely out of options. His words before the surgery, man, they just hit you. They're such a powerful reminder of what was really at stake here. He knew the risks, he knew he might not make it, but he also knew he could be a pioneer. And for 60 days, that pig's heart beat inside his chest. He was awake, he was talking to his family, even doing rehab. Now, ultimately, his life wasn't saved in the long run, but those 60 days, they gave scientists an absolutely unprecedented amount of data that could literally change everything for the future. All right, so let's break down what actually went down on that historic day. So you've got David Bennett, right? The doctors had told him he wasn't a candidate for a normal human heart transplant. So this was it, his last shot. It was done under a special FDA program called compassionate use. And just like that, he became the very first person ever to receive a heart from a pig that had been genetically engineered just for this purpose. So, you're probably wondering why. Why go through all this trouble? A pig's heart, really? And look, it's a fair question. The answer, well, it's tied to a really desperate and, frankly, a growing crisis that affects so many people. Just think about this. In the US alone, there are over 100,000 people on the organ transplant list. 100,000. And every single day, people on that list die because they just can't get an organ in time. The need is just, it's huge. And the supply of donated human organs just can't keep up. Not even close.
I mean, when you see it laid out like this, the scale of the problem is just staggering, right? This huge gap, this chasm between the number of people who need an organ and the number of organs available. That's what's pushing scientists to find a solution, a really radical solution. They're looking for a reliable, almost on-demand source of organs that could, maybe, just maybe, get rid of that waiting list for good.
And this radical solution? It has a name. It's a field of science that's been cooking for decades, hitting wall after wall, but always holding this incredible promise. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the science that actually made this whole thing possible. Okay, the big word here is xenotransplantation. It sounds complicated, but the basic idea is simple. You take an organ from one species and put it into another. Simple concept, right? But in practice, whoa, it is incredibly complex. And the biggest bad guy in this whole story is our own immune system. It's designed to be an amazing bodyguard, and it will attack and destroy anything it thinks is a foreign invader. And this isn't some brand new idea they just cooked up. Nope. Scientists have been trying this for more than 50 years. I mean, you can go all the way back to the 60s with primate-to-human transplants, and a lot of people remember the baby Faye case back in '84. But the real game changer, the thing that unlocked all this, was genetic engineering. That's what led to the breakthroughs we're seeing now. So why pigs? I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to use something closer to us, like a baboon or a chimp? Well, it turns out pigs are kind of the surprise frontrunners here. Their organs? About the same size as ours. They're easy to breed. And, a big one, the risk of passing diseases to us is actually lower than with primates. But the real kicker, the most important reason of all, is that we've gotten insanely good at editing their DNA. And this is where things get really, really cool. This wasn't just any pig's heart. It had 10 specific genetic edits. Think of it like this. Scientists went in and knocked out or turned off 4 pig genes. Those were the ones that would cause a massive immune rejection right away. Then they added in 6 human genes. These human genes basically help the pig heart blend in, helping the body accept it. It's like putting a really, really good disguise on the organ so the immune system doesn't freak out. But okay, of course, something this groundbreaking is going to stir things up, right? It's not all just high fives in the lab. For every person calling this a miracle, there's someone else asking, have we gone too far? Have we crossed some kind of moral line? And you know what? The ethical debate here is just as tricky as the science. And it really kind of boils down to two very different ways of looking at it. On one hand, you have the argument that, look, medical science sometimes requires animal testing. It's a necessary evil, so to speak, to save human lives. But then on the other side, people are saying this is just unnecessary suffering for animals and that we should be putting all our effort into things like engineering better mechanical organs instead. And honestly, there's no easy answer here at all. A breakthrough like this forces us all to think about some really big, profound questions. What are the boundaries of science? What's our relationship with animals? It really makes you think. Where do you land on all this?
So, no matter where you stand on the ethics, the science itself is plowing ahead. What we learned from David Bennett's case is already being used to figure out what comes next. So, what's the roadmap? How do we get from this amazing one-time experiment to something that could be a standard procedure in hospitals? Well, right now, it looks like there are two main paths forward. The first is basically more of what we just saw, using that compassionate use rule from the FDA for patients who have literally no other options. The second path, well, that one's a lot longer. It means full-blown clinical trials, which would mean showing a lot more long-term success in animals before the FDA would even think about approving it for everybody. So, look, a future where we can just get a new organ whenever we need one, that's still a ways off. But the first massive step has been taken. This whole thing has shattered what we thought was possible. And it leaves you with this really wild idea to chew on, that one day the key to your own survival might not come from another person, but from a pig. A pig with your name on it. Just think about that for a second. What would that future even look like?